record.
There we go.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, let me just repeat then for the recording, as some people wish to have a record of this, that for one second, I'm trying to get back to my notes. We're called to order at 7:08. For attendance purposes, Mr. Nicola and Mr. Rufo are absent, and regional alternates, Mr. Clark, Mr. Daniel, Mr. Hall are absent.
All right. Thank you very much. I think we're going to go next to public comment. So for anyone who is new, the way that you do that is you scroll to the bottom of your screen where it says reactions. Click on that little smiley face. Right above it, it says raise hand, and then you're going to raise your hand. Everybody gets 2 minutes for public comment. You want to state your name, and then also please state what state you are from. So, Adrian F. Malagon, California, for example. So I'm going to go through the names in the order that they appear on the side of my screen. And let's get started. Nathan Madden, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Madden. I'm from Arizona. Just here to congratulate Becky Jones, I believe, from Kansas for her appointment to Region 1 alternate. And I just want to do my usual shilling for the CRM. So I hope that everyone here understands that the CRM is the most powerful tool that the party has, and the states that are currently users of it have many benefits that they get from it. Indiana, in particular, has shown exactly what you can do with it. They leveraged it in such a way that they were able to get over $1 million in a year. So just want to, again, say that that's a good thing. Aside from that, I hope everyone has a great meeting, and I'll get out of your hair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madden. Up next, we have Mr. Malagon from California.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Adrian F. Malagon, Chair of the Libertarian Party of California. Prior to 2010, the LPCA had been using spreadsheets to keep member data from before considering and implementing a CRM. We looked at Civi, Nation Builder, and Neon, and selected Neon due to Civi's many shortcomings. In 2018, we revisited the idea at the request of National, but none of the initial problems we observed with Civi had been resolved. We also realized that while FEC reporting was optimized in Civi, FPPC reporting wasn't, which again made it a non-starter. Those who have researched Civi know that it was not designed or intended to be used in the robust way that a state-level political organization like ours would require. This makes me question how an even larger organization like LP National was ever able to make it work. So I'm interested to hear more about the challenges you're experiencing with your Civi implementation and the Razor's Edge migration. The LPCA continues to send our best and brightest to assist the LNC. In addition to LNC Chair, Ms. Angela McCardle, we also have sent our regional rep, Ms. Carrie Eiler, to support her efforts at National. California believes in Ms. McCardle's vision and strategy for LP National, and we're grateful for Ms. Eiler, who is working so hard to assist LP staff in implementing those strategies. I humbly request that the LNC demonstrate its gratitude for the sacrifices made by California by doing everything possible to remove obstacles that could hinder the successful implementation of that strategic plan. Ms. McCardle is the reason for the level of involvement of most of our state ExCom in the LP today, Ms. Eiler and myself included. Her work ethic, determination, and integrity in the face of constant misplaced criticism are just a few of the reasons that she will always be California's favorite daughter. Your main role in the LNC is to remove barriers so that the party can forge ahead toward ever greater success. Ms. McCardle was chosen for her unique vision regarding how that growth could be achieved. She chose Ms. Lainey Houston as head of staff, believing that her unique dedication and qualifications were the best possible to help implement those strategies. California's ask is simple. Don't make life harder for the LP staff who are tasked with taking the party to the next level, especially at a time when they are working so hard to correct pre-existing dysfunction and coping with the resulting upheaval that has left them understaffed. Please empower Ms. Houston to implement the strategies, tactics, and priorities which are integral to Ms. McCardle's overall vision for the party. Neither of these ladies are expendable. We implore you to set aside personal agendas and personality differences and cooperate to fulfill your vital role in this organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malagon. Up next, we have Hector Roos from Florida.
Roos, a member of the state board of the LP Florida. We are one of the state affiliates that participates in the state Civi CRM affiliate program. and we have questions and concerns about the future of Civi CRM within the LP. Florida was one of the earliest adoptions of the state CRM program. Florida suffered from a major data loss during our migration to this new CRM. It is concerning to hear about similar troubles to the LNC's recent migration from Raider's Edge. We would like to know what steps have been taken to secure our existing data, such as regular data backups. The state Civi CRM program was to allow for data sharing and shared licensing agreement, supposed to be maintained by the LNC, and affiliates can pay for some funds to get expanded service. It's also tied into LNC hosting of our website and email hosting. Each of these points we would like an update with. There have been two suggestions that we'd like to see in the state Civi CRM program that will dramatically improve its usability for us. One is to basically let us license and self-host so we can manage it directly. That is to say, manage directly the LNC version of Civi CRM, which has received significant investment to make it work for political parties. And two, to create a federated data model so that we can retain our data and access it when we need to, and back it up as we need. Those conclude my remarks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Hannah Goodman.
I'm Hannah Goodman. I'm the chairman of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. I'm speaking to the dissatisfaction of the CRM from Colorado. I've served on several boards since we have taken and retained control of Colorado, and every board I have served on has had an issue with the CRM's functionality. The number one complaint of all the directors and all of our county affiliates is the use of the CRM for our database. Colorado is now poised to become a major party in the Colorado political landscape. I am tasked with laying the infrastructure to handle this over my term. The CRM is the absolute biggest obstacle in my path. And I want you all to know obstacles don't stay in my path for very long. We have to be able to accommodate rapid growth here in Colorado. I think that the biggest issue with Civi is how much has to be done manually. Almost nothing is automated. If things could be automated, like emails and reminder emails, that alone would make us way more efficient. The other issue that keeps coming up is that it's also super slow. I was informed that automation makes it even slower. So clearly we can't handle an influx of numbers if that's the case. I also want to speak to the unfriendly userability of the platform. Regular people can't use it. I know, I am one. I'm the chairman of a state affiliate and I cannot use the CRM. Wow. My county affiliates are growing rapidly. Their chairmen are struggling to use the CRM. Another issue we face is reporting. We have to be able to have easy, functional reporting, especially if we're planning on growing. A huge other problem that Civi has is the fact that you can't do anything through text. It can't connect to any service that does any texting. Many people opt out of emailing and mailers, and the only other avenue that we could take is texting or calling. Calling is hugely inefficient.
You're about at time, Hannah.
All right, Colorado has been very patient despite our criticism. I just want you to know that our patience is wearing thin. If Civi is being one of our most powerful tools and it's not improved, we will only ever remain second throughout every November going forward.
Thank you, Hannah. Okay, up next we have Pietro Garacci.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pietro. I live in the totalitarian state of New York, most unfortunately. Finally getting some good weather. Anywho, I think we have to look at this. Let's see. The Reno reset wasn't going to happen overnight. The resurrection of the Ron Paul revolution needs time. It's not something anyone expected to happen quickly. In fact, I wasn't expecting it to take any less than 2 weeks. It'd probably take longer. But I think we would all expect the metrics to be moving in the correct direction. And it's looking like they're not. And we're almost a year after that takeover, after the Reno reset, and current leadership continues to blame past leadership, which is rather unprofessional and is not what people want to see. Therefore, I'm announcing here now that I am running for chair of the Libertarian National Committee, because I believe we need to get back to fundraising. We need to get back to basics. We need to improve our fundraising numbers. We need to focus on winning local races. We need to get back to people who left this party And while I believe the Mises Caucus has the right idea with bold messaging and taking human action and standing up for the voiceless, giving them a voice and standing up for marginalized peoples, the execution of this plan so far has been poor and needs improvement. So I hope you will support me in this endeavor, and we'll see how things go from here on out. I yield the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Pietro. Up next, we have Eli. Eli Dalton Webb. Hi, Eli. Did you have a comment?
Can someone else go before me?
Yeah. Okay, up next, we're going to skip LNC members and come back to you guys to make sure we get everybody in. Up next, we have Stephen Seacrest.
Hi, yes, I'm Stephen Seacrest from Nebraska. Just want to congratulate Becky Jones. Last year, she was one of our delegates to Reno, and we're so proud that she had took this, alternate for Region 1. And best of luck, and we'll know you'll serve us well, Becky.
Thank you very much. Eli, are you ready?
Yes. My name's Eli Dalton Webb. I'm from Arizona. This is my first national meeting. I just wanted to say that I really don't know what the National Libertarian Party is doing for me or my county or my state. It was just within the past probably weeks, and I've been with the party for 3 years, that I finally found the Discord server, or not found, but someone told me about the Discord server for the region that I'm in. So if that could be a consideration in the future of how to create camaraderie as far as national. The other thing is I have some agreements about the CRM. It's not ready. It's probably a huge project. And I would recommend that we use keep it simple approaches while the CRM isn't working. The other thing is it has libertarians only. So it's hard to win any elections or pass any laws when we have libertarians only. And my other concern is that we're going to have elites at the top who are going to dictate everything that the CRM is going to be used for. And so if I use it for a campaign, it could be ripped out right under me while I'm campaigning, because politics comes and goes and endorsements come and go. So I don't like the fact that it's a centralized resource and all my data is elsewhere. I think I'm done and I'm approaching 2 minutes. So thank you.
Thank you, Eli. Up next, we have Alicio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate it. My name is Alicio, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. And I just wanted to express my dissatisfaction with the CRM. The CRM is indeed the most powerful tool that we currently have, but it's also the most useless for the purposes that we need for our state. The CRM is slow. I am confident to say that it would take less time to write down all of the thousands of members registered within the state by hand and call each of them in the time it takes to even just log into Civi. The CRM is not user-friendly. I do consider myself tech savvy, and even I struggle with using the CRM when I want to, for example, send mass emails, look up members, and even reach out to members who would like to volunteer. All of my tech bros will definitely understand when I say that the CRM is not a viable, usable product. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Up next, we have Rich Bowen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a housekeeping issue. Wanted to introduce and welcome Ms. Jones and re-welcome Mr. Redpath to the meeting. It actually just jogged my memory, and I wanted to ask the indulgence of the secretary if she might put on her list of things to do, which I know is large, maybe submitting a LNC distribution list. My address and phone number has changed. There have been a number of new people, and it would be nice to have a distribution list so I could reach out individually to some of our new members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Really good catch. And welcome, Becky Jones. Thank you so much for jumping in and getting into this meeting right away. And welcome back, Mr. Redpath. And thank you for the really successful signature drive that you did in Arkansas. That's really appreciated.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Okay, let's see. Madam Secretary. Whenever you're ready, because you had your hand up and you're muted.
First, some housekeeping things, which I hope don't take away from my public comment time, but it's up to the chair. Everyone, please make sure I have your current address, phone number, and Zoom email address. I do not have that for everybody. I also need an NDA from everybody. If you don't have the blank form and you haven't sent it to me already, please let me know. I haven't gotten this from everybody. Also, your potential conflict of interest. I know some of the new members, such as Ms. Jones, will not have known that. I'll be reaching out to you privately, Ms. Jones, with some other things that we'll need you to do, such as watching a scintillating video that you should have some popcorn for. Now for my public comment. This first part is all in good fun. Mr. Magellan, I will say Colorado has the most superstars. If you look back in the history of who Colorado has sent to the LNC, that's all meant in good fun. I appreciate the friendly competition. There's a couple things I'm going to say here, though, that might not be the most popular, but I guess people aren't surprised at me for that. No state is forced to use the CRM. If you hate it, rather than taking it away from everybody else, switch to Nation Builder. I used to be on the LPCO board and I've used Nation Builder and it's hell. So if that's the hell you would prefer, go ahead and do that. And I'm not saying that specifically to Colorado. I'm saying that to any state. There are states who love it. And I just find it really strange that some states are wanting to take away things from other states when no one else is being forced to use it. If you don't like it, don't use it. I'm finding that extremely frustrating. Mr. Pietro, with all due respect, I think coming and criticizing a board and announcing a run is an extremely poor taste. Other LNC members can chastise me for saying that comment, but I'm going to say it. We are working our tail off, and I don't see you writing to ask. If anyone has any questions, please write to ask. Everybody here on this board, even those of us who don't agree with each other, all passionately love this party, and we are all volunteers doing the absolute best that we can. We will fail at times, but we don't know what you want unless we hear from you. Lastly, as far as metrics, I think everyone would like to see the metrics improve, but I think we'll all also know that we're going into a very, very terrible economy right now. And I ask that people please have some sympathy for that. And also for people that are having financial difficulty giving to the party because they're losing their jobs and prices of things are going up. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Would you mind dropping is there a OneNote?
Yes, it's also on the screen, but I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you so much. Is it in there?
I just stuck
There
it.
it is.
And it's in.
Great.
It's also in the header on every page on the screen. Is my screen not sharing? Is that part of the issue?
No, it's just coming up really
okay.
tiny for me.
All right, thank you.
You're totally fine. Okay, next agenda item. There we go. APRC Policy Manual Amendment. This was noticed, I believe, by the committee.
Yes, and let me pull up the OneNote since the first motion is in there. Just give me 1 second. As you can see, I didn't pull up the actual month and I've got quite a bit here. Just give me one moment. And by the way, Mr. Rufo and Mr. Nikela are here. They arrived during public comment. Okay, so the first motion. This has been noticed multiple times. It's been agreed to be postponed several times. Ms. Yanuskavich may wish to speak to it as well. Mr. Elliott, unfortunately, is no longer with the committee. We would like to revise 1.02.7. The changes are in blue and red up on the screen, just as a little back. Well, first, let me make this motion. Well, it came out of a committee, so it doesn't need a second. So it is moved and seconded. Sorry about that. So some background on it. The Policy Manual Advisory Committee asked each committee as to changes that might be needed. This is one of the ones that was discussed in the APRC. And most of the changes coming from committees are to make the policy manual reflect what the committee actually does, rather than, which isn't always what the policy manual says. There were some changes made to try to better accommodate staff and the party chair. You will see the APRC is now given 3 hours to review rather than a 6-hour window to review, so that things move more quickly. Also, things that are determined to be of an urgent or non-substantive nature by either the executive director or the LNC chair are exempt from APRC review, though they can, after the fact, express concerns. And another change is we had deleted before from the policy manual the procedure for the LNC. If an LNC member who is not on the APRC has a concern about a public communication, the way it used to be handled is that if a majority of the LNC contacted the party secretary, the communication would automatically be yanked. Right now, there is no procedure for that because this APRC change took a while to craft. Now there is a procedure for that where LNC members can contact the APRC, which is the committee actually to be handling that. Without this procedure, which will probably, at some point in the future end up happening on this LNC or another one, is there'll just be public motions disagreeing with communications, and that sometimes impacts a critique of staff, and critiques of staff should be done in private, not in a public motion such as that. So this is the change that I'm going down to the bottom here as well, that we are proposing.
Okay, Mr. Tunyevich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If the secretary could scroll up a little more, please. Thank you. So my question has to do with the second paragraph that starts with the words "the APRC is not required," and then the following paragraph. So in the first one, this change says the committee would not be required to provide advanced review of any social media content. Okay, that's one thing. Or items that are of an urgent nature. Okay, get that. And then also of a non-substantive nature. And that's in the opinion of the executive director and the chair. If that's all that was here, I'd say that sounds great. But it's the next paragraph that confuses me, and perhaps whoever authored this can speak to it just by way of clarification. So all other official public communication. So that is substantive, non-social media communication. So is that press releases? Is that, what would be examples of this all other public communication? Speeches that the chair is going to give, for example? That's the clarification I'm looking for. I think that second paragraph by itself really knocks it out of the park. The rest just seems a little fuzzy. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I respond because it's a
Yes,
question?
please do.
Okay. The second paragraph doesn't change anything from what has been in the APRC since as long as I've been on the committee. We didn't change anything. We just reorganized the wording. It used to be in bullet points. If you go and look down at the red, you will see that this substantive language has always been in there. I can tell you the way it's been interpreted. So I can't say what the author meant because we weren't the author. I believe the author was Ms. Matson, but I could be incorrect about that. The way this has been interpreted is communications that aren't of an extemporaneous nature. So I suppose if the chair had a written speech that was going to be published on the website, that would be included. But interviews and things that are not scripted, where people are expected to be robots, are not included. This is talking about written communications.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think next was Dustin Nana. Yep, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm actually going to call the question.
Well, our executive director had a comment. Is it okay if we hear everybody else who's in line? Call it after that. You want to call it before she speaks? Okay, so I'm gonna object to the question being called on behalf of our executive director.
Oh, I said everybody with their hand currently up is fine.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were muted. Okay.
After that.
Okay, great. Ms. Houston, go ahead. If that's all right with everyone else, we're going to hear from our executive director.
Ms. McCardle, Chair McCardle, part of the problem is after someone speaks, other people may wish to speak. I think we either call the question or we don't. I don't think calling the question is allowed to be contingent. So if Mr. Nana wishes to withdraw his calling of the question, or we vote on calling the question, because there may be further comment after Ms. Houston speaks. And as the maker of this motion, I don't want to waive that.
Understood.
I think it's fairly straightforward. I would like her to get an opportunity to speak, but if that's how we want to run it, then I'm just going to call the question.
That's totally fine. That's your right. Does anyone else, I see another hand up. Does anyone else object to having the question called?
I object.
Okay.
I object.
There we go. Okay. I need to, let's see here. How am I going to do this easily? Okay. Hands. By a show of hands, and don't worry about Miss Houston's hand. I can do basic math. All those who oppose to having the question called, please raise your hand. Go ahead, Ms. Harlos.
Votes are always kind of in the affirmative of who.
I'm sorry, an affirmative vote. Sorry, I'm getting chewed on right now. I'm trying not to be too distracted. Should the question be called? If you want the question called, you can raise your hand. Sorry about the confusion. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any other hands? Right now I've got 6. Madam Secretary, is your hand up?
Yes, it is.
Okay, got it. 7. 8. Do I have 8 hands? Hold on. 9.
I'll put mine back up.
Okay, let me recount. Sorry, everyone. They're moving. 10. Okay, we've got 10 hands. So, Madam Secretary, is this a 2/3? No, this is a simple majority, right?
It's a 2/3. It's a 2/3 vote, Madam Chair, but the negative always has to be called.
Okay. All those opposed to calling the question? Everybody had.
Were you counting Richard Benderson there?
Hopefully not. Everybody else should have their hands down at this point, except for the executive director, because her hand is easy to count.
And alternates cannot vote if the primary is here, Ms. Jones.
I know we're trying to make this quicker, but I think It's fine for this one. I think next time we should just do roll call.
Yeah. You are correct. Okay, all of those who are opposed to calling the question, hands up. Okay, I see 5 hands up. I think we had 10 to 5, 6. Is that right? I think we have 10 to 6 at this point. Did anybody else double count? If that's the case, I believe the question is called and we're going to move on.
No, ma'am. When there's a 2/3, the yeses have to be at least twice as much as the nos. 6 is twice would be 12. There was only 10, so it is not called.
All right, then we're going to continue with debate. Okay, Ms. Houston, if it's all right from everyone else, I'd like to hear from our executive director.
Excellent. Thanks so much. I can keep this super quick. So thank you to Kathy, Kiernan, and Mr. Elliott, who is now departed, but for listening to my commentary on how these processes impact various staff operations. Just for a little bit of background, with the way we do content, the APRC changes that you see here, they impact everything from content we would put about messaging, so thinking like social media or press releases and things like that, to fundraising. So the Policy Manual Committee has heard my concerns that anything we can do to be streamlining operations and allowing people to write content and put it out the door, that's something that we should be exploring moving forward. But I'm really pleased that this is a step forward where we are reducing the amount of time and the type of content that we have to run through the committee. This gives us a lot of opportunity to have a bit of latitude around urgent matters. So what I would recommend is that we use these policy manual changes for now, and then we keep looking at ways that we can streamline this entire process. Big thank you to Ms. Eiler, Mr. Dassing, and Mr. Benner for all of their support in working on ways we can do that on the content generation side. And I hope that we can keep looking at it to make sure that this is serving us as it does add extra steps in the process. So hopefully that is just a quick comment, and thank you for moving us forward a couple steps in the right direction, and look forward to revisiting a little bit more in the future as well.
Thank you, Ms. Houston. Madam Secretary, did you want to make comment before we go to Mr. Hagopian?
Yeah, just very briefly. The only substantive changes that have been made are ones that reduce some barriers. I do, however, object to a characterization that it is, as worded, a barrier. But we have shortened the time and given more discretion to the executive director.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Hagopian.
Called the question.
Okay, question's called. Let's go to a roll call vote whenever our secretary is ready.
Let me just appear on the screen. APRC PM changes. Hold on, I had this still as Mr. Cohen underlined from when Mr. Benner wasn't here. So Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
and let me add Ms. Jones here since she got announced before. 1 second. Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Ms. Eiler,
No.
Mr. Ford,
Pass.
pass. 1 second. Let me just change this from Mr. Pankey to Ms. Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian,
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Tunyevich,
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskavich,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
This is not adding properly. 1 second.
You skipped me.
Oh, that's correct. Mr. Ford,
Yes.
And I skipped somebody else. Who else did I skip?
Otto.
You are not on my, how are you not on my list? Hold on one second here.
Good
I think you
heavens.
weren't here a meeting. So we have Dassing / Hyman. Mr. Dassing.
Yes.
Okay, Madam Chair, it is 15-1.
Okay, motion passes. Fantastic. Let's move on to our next agenda item.
Oh, we got
Hold
it.
on, Madam Chair. I think that was just calling the question.
Oh,
No,
what?
was it? Oh, it was.
Yes.
I think everyone was confused. I certainly was confused.
I thought we called the question already.
My motion to call the question failed by one vote.
But then Mr. Hagopian called the question.
You are
That is
totally
correct.
right. I
But
am
was
so
there
sorry.
an objection to Mr.
There was
Hagopian?
no objection. You know what? It's totally on me. I was just feeding a really fussy baby and I passed him off right as we called that.
Madam Chair, unless there's an objection, I think nearly everyone thought that was on the main vote.
Who
I
did
would
not
s-
think it was on the main vote?
I would suggest that if someone wanted to change their vote.
I
Okay.
did not, but it doesn't change my vote.
Okay. Anyone else? Because I definitely want to do that by the book. Ms. Eiler, would you be changing your vote?
If it were the actual motion?
Yeah.
No, I could keep it.
Okay. Was anybody change their vote? Because I don't want that to affect the outcome. Okay. If there's no objection to this, we're going to count that as the vote on the motion because that's what everybody else thought they were doing.
I apologize for not catching that, Madam Chair.
That's okay. Same for me. I should have said if there's no objection question. Anybody object to calling the question? Okay. We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is Phil, Assistant Treasurer, and this is Mr. Hagopian's agenda item.
Actually, Madam Chair, there were 3 things on that first.
Oh, you're totally right. Okay, it's already 6:49. Okay. We are going to need to,
I move to extend time for this item 5 minutes.
by 5.
We probably won't need that.
Yeah. Okay, any objections? Going once, going twice. Okay. Time is extended by 5 minutes.
Okay, the more important thing is to replace Mr. Elliott on the advisory committee. The discussion can wait if this takes up the 5 minutes. I haven't asked him, but I'd like to nominate Dustin Blankenship to fill that. I don't know if he'd be willing.
Oh, yes, sure. I would.
All right. Any other nominations?
I would
like
to nominate Joe Burns from Texas.
This is an LNC, I believe, position.
Yeah, it's LNC
Oh.
only. I'm so sorry.
Fair
No
enough.
shade at Mr. Burns. Appreciate him. Okay. Any other nominations? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm going to say nominations for that are closed. All in favor of
You can
appointing-
ask if there's objection, Madam Chair.
I could. Is there any objection to Mr. Blankenship filling this position? Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing no objection, it is filled. Mr. Blankenship is on the Policy Manual Committee. Thank you very much.
Okay, there was also on there just a brief discussion. There's going to be no motion of
Yep.
something the policy manual committee is going to need to consider, though I would like to hear LNC input if anyone has them. Over the years, as we all know, the policy manual has grown, like barnacles on a ship, and we have done a very good job of trimming it down. But another very significant problem has become apparent that I am so surprised I didn't notice before. And that is, we have our policy manual divided into two sections, special rules of order and standing rules, which are important because they have different amendment thresholds. However, most people are not parliamentarians and do not realize the difference between a special rule of order and a standing rule. So when people have modified the policy manual over the past 6, 7, 8 years, they've just kind of looked and said, aesthetically, where will my proposal fit best? Not, is my proposal a special rule of order or a standing rule? So as such, those two distinctions in the policy manual are meaningless because there are standing rules and our special rules of order. For instance, all those rules about signing an NDA for the CRM, those are stuck in special rules of order when that is clearly a standing rule. And then the issue of the executive committee approving lawsuits and things like that, that's clearly a special rule of order, but it's in the standing rules. So we need to fix that. And that's either by going through it with a parliamentary fine-tooth comb and putting everything where it belongs, or what I recommend, which is going to put more work on this chair and future chairs. But I think it's the way most people do it, is you just have a policy manual. You don't divide it between special rules of order and standing rules, because sometimes in one policy, one sentence is one thing and another sentence is another, that we just combine the two sections. And when it comes time for amendment, the chair has to make a determination as to whether it's a special rule of order or a standing rule and tells the body what the vote threshold is. That's the way most policy manuals are handled. I think that will also cut down on the policy manual, because if you notice, there's sometimes topics that are repeated in two separate places. And if you've ever wondered why, it was an attempt to separate the special rules of order from the standing rules. So I'd like to hear the LNC's thoughts on whether they would like us to go through the work of trying to separate them out at the risk of duplication and length, or to just combine it into one policy manual that at the beginning describes the difference between a special rule of order and a standing rule to give future chairs and this chair guidance, and that vote thresholds be determined on the fly, because in reality, that's what they have to be right now.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary.
We have 30 seconds left on this item.
Does anyone have a policy manual chant? Okay, if not, we are going to hop on to our next agenda item, which is Phil Assistant Treasurer, and this was noticed by Mr. Hagopian.
Yes, thank you very much. I have reached out to almost a dozen candidates, talked to a few, and I have one name to put forward, and obviously we'll accept other nominations here, but I am nominating Robert J. Hamilton, known as Joey Hamilton.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Joe Burns from Texas, though I'm not 100% sure if he'd accept, so I'm not sure what the process is for that.
For something of this nature, we'd need to know for Assistant Treasurer, I think. Is that, Madam Secretary, does that check with you and the Treasurer? This is, we can't vote, I don't think, on an Assistant
Could
Treasurer.
I ask if the Treasurer is privy to that? Because I think he might have reached out to him.
I did reach out to Mr. Burns. I did not get a response. So I do not know his level of interest.
Sure, that's sufficient for me. Thank you all.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Any other nominations? I believe Mr. Tunyevich has his hand up.
Just a request for information, Madam Chair.
Sure.
I didn't hear where Mr. Hamilton is from, what state. Thank you.
Colorado.
All right, thank you.
And when appropriate, I can give a brief background for him.
Yep. Let's see. Going once, going twice. Any further nominations? Okay. Hearing none. Mr. Hagopian, please share with us a little bit about Mr. Hamilton.
Sure. Mr. Hamilton has about 20 years of experience in accounting and finance, the last 12 of which have been in consultancy. prides himself on being a fixer, efficient, and effective. He has been following the Libertarian Party since the Ron Paul Revolution, has been a member since 2020, was a council candidate in 21, and is currently the treasurer of his county party. Basically, I would say that he brings more of the opposite skill set as I do. So I'm more management accounting. He's more true accounting. And I think this is going to be a good fit and a good skill set filler that I need going forward.
All right. Great. Does anybody want to hear one or two words from Mr. Hamilton? She's on the call.
Yes, please.
All right. Hi, Joey. If you'd like to say something about yourself, please go right ahead. You are unmuted, Mr. Hamilton. Can anybody see? He probably stepped away right now. You know what? It's okay. Okay, how would we like to do a vote on this?
We can do it without objection since he's the only nominee.
Okay,
Right.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Since this is the assistant treasurer, I'm fine with it. I want to make sure everyone else is.
I am.
Okay. Okay, if there's no objection, going once, going twice, 3 times, we're going to have Joey Hamilton as our assistant treasurer. Thank you very much, Mr. Hamilton, for stepping up. And thank you to Mr. Hagopian for putting in the work to fill that position quickly. Okay. We're going to move on to our next agenda item. So this is Civi CRM discussion noticed by me for 30 minutes. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have our executive director and our CTO do a 10-minute presentation. The rest of the time is going to be questions by the LNC. I think the best way for me to do this is to move that Ms. Houston and Mr. Bukovich be allowed to do this short 10-minute presentation, 10 minutes, guys, and take Q&A directly from you guys so that they can speak freely. And then at the end of that little privilege expires and then we go back to doing things the way we normally do. So that's the motion I'm going to make right now. Does everyone understand that? It's so that I don't have to constantly call on her to answer your questions and save us time.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yes. Ms. Houston and Mr. Bukovich are about to give a presentation that's 10 minutes long, and then we're going to have a 20-minute Q&A or however much time we have left. I want her to be able to answer your questions directly. We've been keeping things a little more formal. So I ask everybody, is it okay if we hear from Ms. Houston? That's going to weigh us down on this particular agenda item. So I would like her to be able to answer your questions directly, call on you. And then when that agenda item expires, I'm asking everyone if it's okay if we hear from staff again. It goes back to normal. Does that make sense?
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so I move that staff be allowed to conduct Q&A for a period of 20 minutes after they give a presentation. That's really it.
I'll second.
Okay. Any objections? Going once, going twice. All right, that motion passes with no objection. Ms. Houston, do you need screen share capabilities? You are muted.
Yes, please share that with me. I believe I need permission from Ms. Harlos.
Got it.
All right. I'm seeing notifications to add people in, which should mean I have access. I'm going to share a presentation and we can open it up at any time. So we are going to stop in about 10 minutes at 12 after the hour and jump in. And thank you so much to Mr. Bukovich, who's going to be joining me as well. So what we're about to discuss today is a brief and truncated excerpt of what we spoke about in a strategy session with several members of the LNC on Thursday evening, where we talked a lot about fundraising. Today, we're going to address challenges, solutions, and paths forward with respect to Civi. There's so much we could say on this topic, but what we're going to discuss today are basically three things. Number one, we're going to illustrate the reason why Civi CRM matters not only to all of our fundraising, but several operations that we rely on as a team, and what those challenges are. Second, we're going to give an update on where we're at with our technical evaluation and what we're kind of seeing as an early look. And then third, we've got some paths forward and solutions that we can get into, though we're going to focus more on the first two and can really jump into a detailed amount of any of these three things later on. So with that, I want to help level set something. We've had a lot of discussion about revenue, not only over the past month, but over the past several months. And we're going to talk about Civi in a second, but I do want to level set that overall, whether it's our staff, whether it's our wonderful membership and volunteers and our board, in general, we have an extremely capable team who is overflowing with creativity, good ideas, technical experience, business experience to be able to do successful fundraising, whether it's doing focused fundraising campaigns that are there to support a particular topic or project, or whether it's working on systemic life cycle type of operations. We're flush with ideas. What we are doing right now is working through a tech stack that we've inherited and are working our way to improving. And I'll just keep going. I want to make sure everyone's familiar with the tools that we're working with. So I think it is also important in this level set to understand why Civi CRM matters so much to not only fundraising, but everything else. And again, we'll focus mostly on fundraising today, since that's what the membership wants to talk about. Civi is at the center of everything we do, and it powers our entire fundraising stack. What do we mean by that? When we try to do any kind of marketing, that any kind of sales, meaning like one-to-one phone banking, Civi's at the heart of that. All of our analysis and measurement gets routed through Civi because also it's our data management center. And we even do something that not all CRMs do, which is we actually manage permissions through Civi. So think if we have someone joining on as a new state chair, we give them permissions to not just elements within Civi, but other technical solutions outside of Civi through this tool. So we are really, really invested. All of our eggs are in the Civi CRM basket. And that's why it's so critical that we make sure it's a tool that's working for us. So I think another thing that we should be level setting on is that unlike other CRMs on the market or used by our competitors, Republicans, Democrats, or other teams who are fundraising in sort of a nonprofit or political space, Civi CRM has not been designed as a fundraising first solution. We only have 10 minutes today, so I'd be happy to show this in greater detail if anyone wants us to substantiate that claim. But tools like WinRed, ActBlue, or Blackbaud, the thing that we just moved off, Razor's Edge, that's the product that they make, each of those tools in their marketing materials anchor heavily on the desire to be a solution to help people fundraise. Conversely, Civi CRM is more nebulous in their goals, but they're more about engagement. That's what they talk about on their website. So as we look to the different features that they offer out of the box, they tend to focus on things like that are not quite as fundraising focused. It's certainly a component of what it does, but it's not certainly the focus, unlike these other tools. So that's another good thing for us to level set on. So I'm going to call on Andy Bukovich, our CTO, to speak to this in a little bit. But as we mentioned at our last conversation, one of the key ways that we're going to be moving forward in getting the most that we can out of Civi is by doing a very serious technical evaluation. We've had some turnover in our technical team. And one of the first things that our new team members did was take a look under the hood to see how it was configured and figure out what our path forward was to improving our feature sets. And what they found was that based on their knowledge, based on the documentation available publicly, that it was configured in several unorthodox ways. So we immediately said, okay, we need to hire a firm that are experts in Civi CRM to conduct a technical evaluation of a number of our different fundamental components. And we engaged them to work on 5 key areas. First is permissions, or how we give access to various parts of the tool. Second is performance, aka speed or load times. Third is configuration, which has a lot to do with the editability of how you would deploy the software. The fourth is documentation, and that really speaks to what it is that's written down about how to use Civi or how to change Civi. And then the fifth is fit, and that one's much more subjective and a recommendation, but we've been working with our technical evaluation team to identify this. It has taken them so much time to go through this tool that they actually had to cut documentation off the list of the scope of the project they initially quoted to us. And so quickly, I'm going to give Andy about 30 to 60 seconds to speak to what are some of the early insights that the technical team who's been looking at this has found. Andy, you want to talk about that for a sec?
Yeah. So, and part of why they're having a hard time going through it is some of the early feedback that they shared from us. So permissions is like, I'll just use my time to go through that, and you can kind of like use a mental map how this applies to everything else, because everything is this way. There's 5 different ways that you can provision permissions within Civi. Any of the ways could, like, you're given like desired end state security configuration, any of the 5 ways could support them 100% if you did it that way, and it would be easy to reverse engineer and make changes to. Instead, we have like each of the 5 ways are about 20% set up to accomplish our overall security configuration. And so some of their initial feedback was that they've never seen a security/permissions configuration as complicated as ours in Civi. And it's not like due to like the complexity of our sites. It's just due to the way that things were kind of half done one way, half done another way. And everything in Civi it appears to be, almost everything appears to be this way so far. There's some of the early feedback that it's just, there are best practices way that Civi would prefer you to do something. And then there is the way we're doing it, which is there's often a lot of distance between those 2 approaches. So that's most of the early feedback. We'll have more of that to share soon.
Absolutely. One quick anecdote on this is the very first thing we did when we onboarded this team is we actually had to give permission to their team of developers, one of whom was in Europe and was firewalled outside of Civi, essentially because that's the way it's set up. And the permissions are so complicated. It took their team 7+ hours of their highly sought after and highly paid time to just get into the system because the permissions were that complex. So that's like the kind of level that we're dealing with. Very nicely, that firm actually comped us because they're like, oh my God, we had no idea that this was so complicated, that this should have been a breeze for our expert team to do, but it really was not, right? So like that's the level that we're dealing with. One final thing I'll just mention on why this technical evaluation is so critical. I want us to imagine our CRM kind of like IKEA furniture. Like, let's say you bought it online and you don't know who assembled it, and you're seeing this tool, seeing this piece of furniture that's been built in a certain way. You can go to the store at IKEA and get all the materials and follow the instructions, and someone else could use it and then change it around or unbuild it, etc. But if it wasn't built according to the instructions, whether it's because it was built poorly or whether it's because it was built in an IKEA hack to do something different with the thing, it takes a long time to actually retrace your steps and figure out what is going on here so that we can actually make changes ourselves and improve things. So that's why it's really critical to hire experts. We didn't want to, waste the time of our technical team just revving to try to figure out how to change it. That said, we are dealing with this tool as is. So what your national team is doing for you is we're fighting through how can we actually raise money as best that we can and take the attitude that we want to be the experts in Civi CRM and work as hard as we can on it and to fight through all of these challenges. So we've been doing that, and we've been able to demonstrate through 2 key fundraisers. Number one, our most recent record-breaking 420 fundraiser, where we raised nearly $10,000. And then our most recent ballot access fundraiser, we really use that as an opportunity to push through Civi challenges and raise about $10,000 in both cases and kind of feel out exactly what the challenges are. But here's what we found, when we were doing that, right? These are the fundraising challenges, and I'll just speak to these really, really quickly because we only have about 5 minutes left. Number one, they're incredibly slow load times with CV. I would love to be able to demonstrate this to you. And the other night we did a deep dive demo with our team, but since this is streamed to YouTube and we don't want to show personally identifiable information, we're going to just tell you about these challenges. This is about how long it takes for nearly anything to load in Civi CRM. This is on a little 15-second timer. Every time you click, all of our volunteers and staff face this slow of load time, not only to download big chunks of data, but also little chunks of data and just to click around. So 15 seconds might not seem like a long time, but that's a lifetime for someone who's working through a 3,000 person call list. It just explodes everything that you need to do. Additionally, it tends to lack modern marketing features. So that's somewhat of a subjective claim, but I can tell you of all the people who work with us, we've got a lot of extensive experience on our team, people who've worked with many other CRMs and tools, and they struggle to find like, where is this feature? Where is that feature? Just to learn it's in a weird place or there's a handicap or it doesn't exist at all. And that's not just true of marketing. It's also true of calling, right? Many other CRMs, they have inside of the tool, the ability to just click through and follow what's called a business process to make calls and do phone banking. With Civi, it doesn't quite work that way. It's more like an editable page you can edit of what someone should fill out. But if you want to actually hand a set of volunteers, hey, here's a list of 50 people I'd like you to call, you'd have to export it out into Excel just to enable them to do that. And when you're doing that, now you're actually deviating from the whole point of a CRM, which is like having real-time information that's up to date. And let's say that we wanted to fight that problem by just giving people a territory in Civi. We have very constricting permission settings, as Andy and I just explained in the last slide. We can't just give someone a slice of data or give them only the information they need to go make the calls. It's kind of an all or nothing problem. This is much more navigable if you're in a county or a state where, you know, it's a small group, everyone trusts each other, everyone's super vetted and we have a lot of background and you're only focused on a small piece of the data. For national, we would have to give someone access to everyone's content, which is, it's like a huge degree of trust. And it's really complicated on that person to have to navigate, even if they are trustworthy. And finally, I'm concerned to say that it takes so much work just to keep the site in uptime. We regularly have volunteers who have to clear the cache on our servers. They have to make sure that the site is up. It crashes all the time. And we're getting concerning amount of reports from members. And if you're hearing this, thank you for letting us know. People will tell us that they're trying to donate and they can't, right? So we are pushing past these fundraising challenges, but I want everyone to know what they are. What's almost more concerning to us, and we'll be wrapping up very shortly, is the analysis challenges. So these are the problems that we not only can't we use Civi to very, very easily fundraise, it's that we can't even look at data to have the insights in order to give, know where to focus our energy and do very basic functionality. So one thing is it's not designed for native analysis. It says this right in its documentation that if you're wanting to do X, Y, or Z, we recommend adding an extension, or better yet, not using Civi. You should export your data to something else. So that's a little bit concerning. We can do that, but it explodes the amount of time it takes to analyze anything. Next, we have very limited search tools, right? So it is difficult for us to pull the data out of Civi. It's almost like it's behind a curtain we have to feel around in the dark for. One of the most concerning things is we get inconsistent results across the 3 different search tools that that are happening in Civi. And that tells us one of 2 scary things. Either the search parameters are not designed to be consistent, so there's a problem with the tool, or more likely, or a combination of these, the underlying data is getting pulled in different ways. So we can't quite trust the underlying data, right? With that, trial and error will get you a long way in most tools, but just as I showed like up front, Civi is extremely slow and often unsuccessful with exports. I once spent 5 hours on a Sunday afternoon just trying to pull out a little bit of data about a slice of information that should have been very, very easy for us to pull. And I wasn't even successful. I just stopped. I just gave up after 5 hours because I was never able to complete that search. We're getting better and better at this the more we fight through it. But we're finding that we have to work a graveyard shift to use the tool when we're not using emails just to get things to export because the servers are too slow, right? And like we already spoke about, inconsistent search results. And really the main crux of the problem is it's not just our CRM, the data itself is disorganized and potentially even inaccurate, right? So this makes it very difficult for us to do a couple of things. For all these fundraising challenges, a lack of features means that we are overflowing with this creativity, but we're having to do weird hacks just to get some stuff done. And we can't really achieve that full creativity that we have on the team. And we often have to do things in very small batches because that's the level of quality we can assure, right? It's really hard for us to do super scalable things. And then on the data side, a lack of data means a lack of insight. So we have very few leads on exactly what would be the best thing that we could do for members. And a lack of data slicing means that we can't even segment, right? So if we wanted to segment by people who are about to expire as a member or people who've just expired as a member, this is a very straightforward thing we'd want to do, right? We don't have confidence in the data to be able to do that, right? It's not something we can do at scale. And it's not something we are even have confidence in small batches. So we're working to fix that, but it's very scary. What that means for fundraising is that you can't personalize things. You can't hit someone at the right moment, at the right time with the right message for things they care about. So that's putting us on a back foot there. And then finally, lack of accurate data. That means a poor customer experience. We've had people call in or share emails, and most of these have been very gracious and very helpful. So thank you to members. We want to hear more about this, saying, hey, heads up, you've sent me 3 membership cards and one of them was inaccurate. Just wanted to let you know that's happening because at the root issue, we can't really trust our underlying data and tools to do things with the quality and accuracy that we need to. So I'm going to wrap up here, and we can talk about the next steps, with when we get to questions. But Andy, is there anything else you would add? I'm going to spend 20 more seconds on this.
Just the to the data, I just want to highlight the data is so bad that yes, we have valiant volunteers that are working on rectifying much of it, but the way that membership is logged, we know already is inaccurate in some ways, which throws into question the accuracy of any membership reports that have ever been presented to the public since we've been on Civi, because this is the way it's always been done since Civi was set up. It's hard to overstate how fundamental the problems this issue causes are, and that it's a thing that's been festering below the surface for years that hasn't been discovered until recently.
Absolutely. So we're working just as hard as we can, not only on sort of temporary Band-Aid solutions to fight through this problem, and we're working our butts off on that, but also we're working to fix these fundamental scenarios because we can't have that. We can't have unreliable membership data. We can't have an inability to thank members, right? We can't have an inability to send out cards. These are fundamental things we have to fix. So we really appreciate the opportunity to talk about these things. And I want to just talk very, very briefly about what's coming up. I won't speak to everything on this slide, but I will just briefly comment that we're working on 4 major things to fight through this. So like we've said, we're becoming the experts on using what we have, right? This is what we have for the foreseeable future. We're going to fight through this, but we want to not only be able to be successful at national, but to be the tip of the sword, able to help all of our state affiliates as well. And we're doing that through a bunch of experiments that actually bring money in the door. And we're working on that. Second, as we've spoken about at length, we are conducting a technical eval of our tech stack. We've already hired this team. They've completed a tech analysis. They're compiling that report, and we look forward to sharing that not only with the LNC, but all of the stakeholders who are relevant, which certainly includes anyone on a state admin team or anyone who uses Civi, right? This is something important. We'll want to share in a broad audience. Next, we're collecting the needs of everyone who uses Civi, wants to use Civi, or doesn't want to use Civi. We have to listen to that entire spectrum of voices. And we've been doing that from day one in being in our roles. For example, we've already extended questions to and have spoken with state IT admins, our IS committee, who's wonderful. Thank you to them. By the way, they do so much behind the scenes. Power users, people who really, really love Civi. And by the way, we've also heard from people who don't love it, and we want to hear the full spectrum. Our staff and our volunteer Civi admins who set up the system to begin with. So you got a huge group of people who are working together. We need to do a better job formally gathering those needs. And frankly, really getting those needs to come out of the woodwork in a crisp, detailed way. So we're working on that, and we look forward to sharing a little bit what we're doing there. But all of this is to accrue to building a roadmap where we're able to articulate not only within our organization, but to anyone who relies on Civi, hey, here's what we're building, here's how we update it, and making it easy to give input to that process and have it just not be like a one-time roadmap, but an ongoing refinement. So that's what we're working on. I'm sure there's tons of questions. I believe I saw Mr. Nanas go up first, so we will start there, and then we'll move on to Ms. Yaskinovich after that.
So just a couple quick questions. Number one, the consultant firm that we are doing business with, have they ever done an evaluation for a Civi CRM instance that is using WordPress multi-site?
Yes, and Andy, would you like to speak to that?
Yep, they've done stuff that's even not Civi CRM. They do prefer Drupal as the CMS that integrates with Civi, which is what WordPress is, but they've done plenty of work with WordPress.
Absolutely. Just to make that more concrete, when we were interviewing different firms, they spoke to us that they were actually willing to give us a discount because this situation was so complicated. It was going to help them with another migration they're doing that only has 9 sort of nodes on their multi-site thing. So they're very much working on this and have experience with this in the past.
And then the second piece of that, when this firm, well, I guess, has this firm given us a written evaluation yet? If not, when do we expect it? And then, if they have or if they haven't, how can I get a copy of the raw evaluation? Because I would be interested to read it.
Yeah, absolutely. They've given us a first, very, very first, not even a first draft, like what would you call it, Andy? A first reaction.
Preliminary reaction.
Observations, and it's very, very high level. I would be happy to share that with anyone. We did give them the feedback that it's generic, and they actually said, hey, we're nervous to tell you guys how tangled and how broken the system is. So we actually pulled a lot of punches in writing that thing. It's about 1 page long. Happy to share it with anyone who's curious. The real meat will come, I hope, but I'm leaving for vacation this Thursday evening, and I hope to have that on my desk in time, to be able to read it, give them feedback, and either at that time or shortly thereafter, we would be able to hand this off to our stakeholders. And of course, the board is going to be the very first people who get it. They have already given us a progress report of each of the items that they've completed. They're waiting on a little bit of information internally and some back and forth around what our needs are so that we can do that. And Andy and I are working with them to get that last piece so they can get it done. Hopefully that gives a good answer there. And it looks like Kathy, you are up next, and then we'll move to Donovan.
Yes, I'm interested in hearing more about the inaccuracies with the membership data. What exactly is the issue there? And do we know if the numbers are over? That there are more members or fewer members, or do we not know?
So we debated on how to talk about this, because we are still very much in the we have just realized that this is an issue phase and are investigating. What we know for sure is that there are the way that certain contacts get designated with their membership is definitely incorrect. And we know that natively the correct way, people who are sign up to as new members are being marked as renew and things of that nature. And then additionally, so the way that our bylaws define bylaw sustaining member is anyone who donates $25 in a year within a 365-day span, right? So Civi doesn't support that natively, so we have to have custom functionality to support that, to make sure that people are getting the correct membership object, because we're querying based off whether or not they're marked a member in Civi, not based off their financial data, right? Because it's more or less impossible to do it just off the financial data in Civi. The financial data has to be mapping properly to the membership, and the script, the custom functionality that handles that, we also are aware is not working. So total scale of the issue, we don't have good answers yet, but just in terms of giving you guys the real deal picture of what's going on with the CRM and the challenges, thought we would be remiss to not mention that that's something that we are now aware of.
And something I'd like to add here to be extra clear, we're able to continue providing membership reports monthly in the apples to apples way that we've been doing it since we moved to the system. What we are working furiously to do is to verify not only today's current numbers, but we've seen that there's issues that are likely going back, several months and years, right? So we want to make sure that if we're going to be giving any updates, we're truly confident in that. And I want to keep the membership. And of course, we've already spoken to many members of the board apprised of exactly how that investigation is going. So thank you to Andy and team for doing that. This is another great example why a custom implementation of this software requires a technical eval. This membership, setup was done kind of in a hack sort of a way. It was patched together. That may be a good thing. That may also mean they should have kind of stuck to the script, right? But it was done in an off-road way. So we're working our way to retrace their steps, make sure there's accurate data because members deserve that at a minimum so that we know things are accurate.
Thank you.
I think Donovan, you were next, and then we'll move to Karen Ann after that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that and have you and Andy's understanding that that the issues that you pointed out are a confluence of issues that are somewhat related to the tech that we've chosen and that are related to how we've configured and are leveraging the technology. And based on your ballpark in the usability, what do you guys feel like is the breakdown in where the problems are in tech versus our leveraging of it at this point?
I don't want to mince words, and I'm going to tee up Annie to answer this question. There is, just as you mentioned, Donovan, there's a platform, there's how it's configured technically, and there's how the end users use it, right? And certainly we have room to grow and to learn as end users about how to empower the tool. And we want to teach all of our state affiliates how they can do this as well. But to not mince words, this was set up in a very unorthodox way, right? So the how you use it, there's a big component of that. And Civi CRM is not just an out of the box thing, right? The way you set it up is incredibly important. So Andy, do you want to speak to that? I just want to be really direct.
I would say that it's about 50-50. So there are things that there are plenty of organizations that run fast Civi CRM installations off WordPress. So there's things, so that is it can't, by definition, it can't be an issue of the core product. It's something with the way we're doing it, right? So there are things like that if we were once we clean them up, Civi, a lot of the more overt complaints about how unusable Civi is and that states can't do 90% of what they need to do right will go away. For instance, states can't configure set up their own events and create price sets for their own events for conventions or stand up their own fundraising pages for targeted fundraising action and things like that. That shouldn't be the case and won't be the case after we reevaluate these permissions. That's not a Civi core problem. However, some of the more advanced things that we really want to unlock and accelerate our potential, like data reporting, advanced automation and things like that, they're not Civi supported, and so are going to be an issue we have to solve with custom functionality or with the supplication of another tool, even if we had a 100% healthy, really good Civi instance.
Okay, real quick, I hate to interrupt. Hold that thought. Time has expired. Does anybody want to extend?
So moved for 10 minutes.
Okay. Any objections to extending time for 10 minutes? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Time's extended. Go right ahead, guys.
Donovan, did that answer your question?
It did excellently. Thank you very much.
And I think that means that we're going to go to Karen Ann next and then Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm probably going to fire off some questions, and I appreciate that our executive director said we're not going to mince words because I don't have a reputation for mincing words, and I don't intend upon doing that now. The pointed question I'm going to ask, I don't want an answer to before I finish my comments is it salvageable? I really want a yes or a no on this. But there's also something that keeps coming up. Earlier in this meeting, it did as well, and it has on social media. And I kind of want to correct something. or at least offer a different perspective. What I'm trying to find out is someone who's been on the LNC since 2016, that was on the LNC when it approved Civi CRM, and I'm not saying this is intentional, because I never would say something like that was intentional, because I believe everyone was acting in good faith, but it's starting to seem to me, and I want to know the opinion on this. I don't yet have an opinion on this. Was the LNC sold on something that probably it shouldn't have been? And again, I'm not trying to ask a loaded question, because I'm a pro-Civi person. I remain a pro-Civi person as I'm asking this, but I'm more of a truth person more than anything else. I don't agree that it's not professional to blame mistakes of prior LNCs. That's incorrect. It's not professional to not tell the truth. Now, what isn't professional is to continue to blame mistakes on prior administrations and not fix them. But to not say where things went wrong, that isn't unprofessional. That's called telling the truth. And people who are going to continue to say that, that's not the business world. You have to pinpoint where the line of failure happened, if it happened, because I'm not yet convinced it did, to be perfectly honest, in order to fix things. But I do want to know if it's salvageable. And also, I want to hear, and I know this is getting planned. It was mentioned before that Indiana was very, very successful in using this. I want to hear from Evan McMahon on these issues. I just do, because he has successfully used it, and I want to hear his opinion. But I guess the pointed, not minced words question that I have right now is in the opinion of Mr. Bukovic and Ms. Houston. Excuse me, I wasn't meaning to assign you a new gender. In your opinion, whether I agree or not, because I'm obviously a pro-Civi person, is it salvageable?
So there was two questions there, and let me actually address like the second one first, if you don't mind. So you said, like, was the LNC like sold on something that it maybe shouldn't have done, right? There answer that question of like, if I was like in that role with, or like in my role with like my current experience at that time, what would I have recommended, right? And there's two decision points. Should we have gone to Civi at all? Should we have done this multi-state CRM thing? Yes, I think like Civi, or like any CRM platform that National is leveraging to extend out to all 50 states and make available easily to people, has the potential to compete with huge platforms like Act Blue and Win Red. And like, it is going to be the lifeblood of our movement. I don't think that was a mistake. Moving to Razor's Edge, I don't know that I would have advocated for that at the time. And by I don't know, I mean I wouldn't have. If Civi was like this like godsend solution that was already doing things really, really well, and it was just a matter of porting, it would have been a different story. But I can tell you that right now, if I still had Razors and Civi at my disposal and I was like figuring out what to do, I would probably either be advocating for a major overhaul to Civi before we talk about moving anything over there, or a third solution. Now, your first question, is it salvageable? Yes, and it has to be, I think. This is the tool we're using right now, and we have to do things to get it serviceable, because even if like hypothetically the LNC were to vote like, okay, we've heard enough, like it seems like Civi has big problems, we need a new platform, right? There are still like our current business process like uses it. All these states' business processes use it, right? We have to support us and the states on Civi until we have a good solution. And so we're going to have to do some stuff to improve this about Civi. And I really think that like once we get into a place where like at the biggest fires regarding Civi have been put out, at that point it is already like salvaged in some degree, and it becomes a lot easier to make a decision about, okay, like this is working well, do we want to invest in improvements into it? Do we want to invest in improvements to this, or do we want to use a more powerful tool and slowly transition away from this? Does that answer your question, or does that feel like a dodge? Because I'm not trying to.
And Karen, I think that was directed at you.
Yes.
Great. So I actually would love to add a couple of points, and then whenever you're able to come off mute, I'd love to hear similar questions. So thank you, Andy, for outlining that. I'm going to add a couple of points. So number one, salvageable. Absolutely salvageable. I think, but it's not a binary. It's like salvageable in what effort and at what time scale. We're going to work our absolute hardest to make sure this does not hinder the objectives of the liberty movement in any way. We are doing exactly what we need to do that, which is figuring out our options from this tech eval, collecting needs, and building a roadmap. That's exactly what we're going to need to do. And there is not a quick fix solution, silver bullet solution, other than making sure we have something viable in the short term. So we will definitely be working on that. One other thing I just want to say to speak to some of the merits of a decision to move to Civi is that I think the vision of going to a platform like Civi CRM might have been something along the lines of assuming we can have a dedicated group of volunteers who are constantly working to deploy the system, maintain the system, improve the system, et cetera. This tool gives us ownership over our data and an ability to have not have to pay per seat or pay big fees to use it. The problem is we're now 6 years in, and I think we're seeing that we don't quite have that like vibrant, very, very active set of volunteers, right? So, and again, maybe I can just, again, not mince words here. It requires a lot of work to maintain a system of this size with this many millions of dollars flowing through it, right? So, I don't know that there's any malice like in being, pitching this to the LNC. I don't think so. But what we do need to see is a solution that works with the actual dollar and talent amount, like resources we have, right? So that's what we can do moving forward. If we were going back in time, I might have recommended that we get an out-of-the-box solution from a place that we trust, because that will allow us to spend less time being IT people and more time being freedom people, right? We're here where we are now, and as we choose the next solution moving forward, we should just evaluate all of that stuff and learn from how we've gotten here in the first place. So that's one thing I will say there. Another question that you asked for direct comment on is, hey, can we hear it from Evan? Absolutely. Several times tonight in the comments and in the chat, people have mentioned that Indiana's had some success, and that's irrefutable. I will note that what a lot of Indiana does is they actually rely on augmented tools to accomplish things with Civi. So we are extremely excited to talk to not only the Indiana team, but anyone around the country who feels that they are doing a great job stitching together multiple fundraising tools on top of a database that's Civi or otherwise to get shit done. So that would be great.
Can I jump in there too and add something?
I'm going to say one last thing, Andy, which is that we've invited Evan to share with us, whatever he can, and that invitation remains open. So Andy, go ahead.
Just that, like, what Evan, I've talked with Evan a bunch, and what Indiana does, I think, better than anybody, and then even like the national in a lot of regards, is define concrete business processes that he holds people to, that the tool then enables. That was honestly the first biggest part to fixing the CRM, is identifying what are the profitable business processes that the LNC engages in that we need a piece of technology to enable and support. So that I would just say that that is where everyone talks about how good Evan is with Civi CRM. He has a business mind that I think much more people could pick that is even more fundamental than the Civi stuff.
That's a great way of putting it. And I'm going to move on to Andrew, because I know we only have 10 minutes of extended time. But Karen, if there's any other questions, please give us the tough questions. We absolutely want those. So let's go Andrew, and then Kathy will be next.
Oh, I think Andrew's hand is down. I think it's Kathy, and I think we've only got 1 minute left.
Great. Wasn't sure if you put it down because we called him in the queue. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was only up because of the time.
Oh, thank you. Great. Let's go to Kathy.
Okay, quick question. What is the timeline for possible solutions and price tags on what we can do to turn this around?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just click back to this so we can get a scope of this. These are, these blue items are what's in progress, and we're looking to share that report. We need the report back from our consultants to be able to move forward. Here's what I can tell everyone. Direct quote from them. There is no quick fix, right? So what they're doing and why they're taking so long to give us a really thorough report is they want to make sure they understand our needs and can give us a bunch of options to move forward. They're also doing a great job being very agnostic and not trying to recommend you have to stay with Civi, you should move off Civi, none of that. They want to give us just all the options, and that's what we'll hear. We don't know exactly what they're going to present until they present us, but what we can do is keep everyone apprised of when that report comes out. Additionally, we need to formally gather user needs. So Andy and I have laid out a rough timeline of the next 1, 2, and 3 months where we're going to be able to get new insights at least every month, if not every sprint, which we do that on a 2-week basis. And we can be keeping everyone apprised of what we're learning around that synthesis. Does that sound about right to you, Andy?
Nodding my head, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. In particular, something I want to just say to all of our state IT admins out there and state chairs, state membership directors, state fundraising directors, is that we would love to have a summit this summer where we're not only showing the roadmap that we would propose, but we're double checking by the stakeholders. Does this roadmap sound good to you? So more info on that coming soon, but that's what we're working on right now. And we look forward to having that. But I think what everyone should prepare themselves for is we're not going to get a report back that says, great, within 30 days, we'll have this fixed. It's not going to be that straightforward. So it's a long slog we're going to prepare for.
All right. So time has expired on this agenda item. Thank you both so much for this presentation. I want everybody to try not to flood staff's inboxes on this, but at the same time, I know there's going to be additional questions and they're prepared for that. Please just be patient with them as they work through them. Okay. Whenever our secretary is ready, she can reclaim share screen. And I would like at least Miss Houston to stick around for a little bit, as long as she's available. Let's move to our next agenda item. Bear with us, everyone, one moment. And our next agenda item was noticed by Mr. Nana, and it's membership goals and expectations followed by a motion. And there's going to be some discussion in executive session. So Mr. Nana, whenever you're ready, you can let us know how you want to go about this.
My thought was we would go into executive session, have this discussion as a board, have a frank discussion about what we want to see, what goals we want to set, our expectations, and then come out of that. And if a motion comes out of it, we'll make that motion, obviously, in the public meeting. If no motion comes of it, that's fine. But I think it has a lot to do with political strategy. So I think we might need to have it in executive session.
I think that's fine. Do you want staff in for the whole thing, part of it? How do you want to do that?
I think staff should be available to be called in. I think we need to have a discussion as a board where we can kind of just talk freely amongst ourselves. But I definitely want staff to be available for questions.
Okay.
And I'm sure there will be questions.
And if that's a motion, I'll second that.
Yeah, I would move that we enter executive session to discuss political strategy with just the members of the board, with staff available to be called in for questions.
Second.
Actually, I would like to amend that motion.
Okay, how so?
Well, I don't think it's simply political strategy. I think it will also inevitably lead to discussion of staff. So I do think we need to accurately describe what executive session is. So it's to move to go into executive session to discuss staff expectations and political strategy.
Sure.
Second.
This is regarding fundraising, though.
Yep, just specifically in regards to the topics of membership and fundraising.
Okay, just making sure that when we arrive, it tracks with the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session regarding the items that our secretary, Ms. Harlow's just said. Any objections? We have a hand up.
Hi, no objection, Madam Chair, but just for the sake of the two new alternates we have, just to clarify, alternates are welcome in the executive session, correct?
Maker of the motion?
Oh, yes, obviously. Well, I'm sorry.
It's Dustin Nana's motion.
Yeah, custom we always have. Just sorry.
Yeah, no. Members of the board either currently voting or not.
Got it. Okay. Any objection? Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing no objection, we're going to enter into executive session. So I'm going to let our secretary handle that. The way that works is everyone else can hang out here in the main room, and we're going to go into a breakout room. And when we hop out, we'll all be back in the same room together. You'll still be live on YouTube, so keep that in mind. You can chat amongst yourselves, but it'll be on the record.
I am having a problem in that Zoom is not showing me meeting controls.
Okay, let me see if I have them.
If you do, you need to look at breakout rooms and open the executive session one. That will bump everybody automatically into it except for me and the new members.
Ms. Houston, do you still have co-host capabilities? That might.
I can check. Give me a second.
Otherwise, since you're co-host, I might need to leave and come back in. Zoom, the minute I gave sharing capabilities to Ms. Houston, Zoom just does this, screwed up.
Okay, I have them, so I'm going to pop everyone in right now.
Okay.
While we're doing that, I'm getting a message that somebody joined without the ability to encrypt communication. I have no idea what that is. It looks like a phone number.
Yeah, they did, and that's their choice.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't know why it was telling me.
Okay, but Ms. McCardle, when you send everyone into executive session, look at the list of the people who are still in the main room, since I can't do it, because the new Region 1 alternate will not automatically be thrown in because I didn't have her info because she's brand new. And the same might also be true for Ms. Eiler. There are specific reasons for that. And also Mr. Redpath. And you'll also have to throw me in because I have no meeting controls. I don't know what is going on.
I'm going to hit recreate, and then I'm going to come in and out and try to fix it. Here we go. That didn't work.
Okay, I'm going to leave the meeting. I'm going to make you host. I'm going to, and then you'll need to make me host again, I think.
That's fine.
I'm recording on my computer. I don't know what's going to happen here.
Just kidding. This is hilarious.
1 second. Let me always show meeting controls. Let me see if that helps with Zoom. God. Okay. Wait, no, that isn't meeting controls. Where? God. Lord have mercy on me. Hold on. Let me try to close a couple windows and see if they just appear.
All right. Trying again. I'm trying one more time.
Otherwise, the other option is we just have to throw everyone else out of the room.
I know. I'm trying not to do that.
Me too. Show all windows. That's not helping. That usually does it. View. Let me try this.
It didn't work.
I'm still trying. It says always show meeting controls, and I have no meeting. Oh, I think they came back up. Hold on.
Okay. They're like grayed out for me.
Breakout rooms. Let's try. I think I got it now.
Okay.
Open all rooms. Yep. See, everyone's getting thrown out. It'll take a few minutes, but it will happen. I'm going to assign Becky to executive session. Who else is missing? Will Hyman, executive session. Bill Redpath, executive session. Okay, let me just look through this list to see if there's anything else. Everyone else, you can hang out. We will be back when we're done with executive session. Just be aware that everything you say in this room is being streamed to YouTube. So don't say anything that you don't want public. I do edit out this portion in the final official meeting recording, but people do download videos. If you say something you don't want to be public, it will probably be public. And Ms. Houston, since you are co-host, if any kind of, not anyone in this room, but if anyone happens to enter the meeting that starts trolling, you will have the opportunity to remove them. So I'm going to go to executive session now, if I can figure out how to do that. Okay. Let me stop recording.
It's that with that in the systems and tools and resources and a compelling strategic vision for them to achieve liberty. And I firmly believe that increased revenue and increased membership will all follow from that when we're actually focused on helping libertarians create more freedom in their life today. So unto itself, a numerical revenue goal, I don't see that actually solving the problem. Although I am in full agreement that we should be very, very actively fundraising right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. Up next, we have Mr. Ford.
My response is actually not designed to respond to Mr. Duque. I'm just going to point out one or two things quickly. Number one, if not our principal responsibility, clearly one of our most principlest responsibilities to affiliates across the nation is ballot access. In the absence of raising money, my interpretation of Mr. Hagopian's remarks are, in the absence of raising significantly more money, we will not be able to provide that literally at just about any level. In the absence of that, this party will begin to crumble. On an anecdotal note, I'd like to point out that the fine folks at NBC provided me with the entire video from their ultra bougie camera of the events in Vermont this week, which hasn't been mentioned much. We now have a state representative in Vermont. The cost to the national party for that state representative, I just want to remind people, was zero. No frontier project, no bribes, no giveaways, just the hard work of a state chair. I will be happy to provide to anyone, number one, the list of multiple cities upon which one of the broadcasts reform, so that we can use that in those localities. Number two, the raw video people can use as they wish. I'll make it available to whomever to have a happy story this week to talk about the fact that in the bluest state in America, we have a well-connected, well-supported state representative who is eager to promote Defend the Guard and promote libertarian values. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ms. Eiler.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just want to also thank Mr. Duque. I agree with what he said, and then I want to mention that I have an additional problem that maybe some of you don't. I have a background in addition to marketing, also predictive analytics. So for me, it seems ludicrous after having just seen the problems with our data to be making any prediction about what we can produce moving forward. It just really makes me uncomfortable to commit to any kind of a number, because committing to a number doesn't make anything happen. There are activities that are in the right direction at staff, and all of us are not going to change just because we put some number on the wall. We're all going to keep working like crazy. What we need to do is make commitments to do that work. Not necessarily, it's nice to have a number. I don't think it's mandatory to have a number. I think the effort needs to be there and the strategy needs to be good. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Eiler. Madam Secretary, you look like you're ready for a roll call vote. I will let you take it away.
Okay, thank you. One moment, please. So it was Mr. Nana moved to set a fundraising goal of 100,000 for the month of May, 120,000 for the month of June, and each month thereafter, at least 120,000 or more. Hold on, I'm letting Mr. Holubka, can I buy a vowel into the room? Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Pass.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
No.
Mr. Dassing. Did we lose
No, I'm here. Sorry. I'm gonna say no.
Ms. Eiler,
No.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard,
No.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
I'm gonna go no.
Mr. Tunjevich,
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskavich,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship.
Yes.
Madam Chair, it is 11 to 5 to 0.
Sorry, it's so small. I literally can't see. 11 to 5 to 0. Okay, the motion passes. Chair's not voting.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Yes.
point of information.
Yes.
Am I allowed to make a motion to adjourn, even though we have not gone through all of the agenda items?
So here's what I'm going to suggest, and I apologize, I have a baby making noise in the background. I'm going to suggest we adjourn to time certain to finish the remaining agenda items and to also allow me to add some additional items that have been previously noticed. Oh, I'm turning into max headroom. To allow me to add the agenda items that were previously noticed that we did not have time to put on the last agenda. And I would recommend the 21st or the 22nd when our executive director is back from her vacation. That puts her back on a meeting, possibly within 24 hours of returning. So I'm doing it as quickly as possible to get us all there.
I'm looking at my schedule.
Monday, the 21st. Can we get a motion?
Monday?
That would be the 22nd.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Can we do the 22nd?
We can't do the 21st? That's a Sunday night.
Well, she'd just be getting back, right?
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
Thought it was a Sunday.
she'd have to join from the airport.
All right. I will make a motion to adjourn to a date certain, to the 22nd of May, at 7 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern. It is a weekday.
I will not be able to make it at 8 p.m. Eastern. I work till 5:30 and it takes me an hour to get home. And Mountain Time. You got to understand that 8 p.m. Eastern is 5 p.m. California time.
Yeah, that's why I was hoping for a weekend.
The earliest I can ever make a meeting on Eastern time is 8:30 during the week.
Do you want me to push it to the 27th?
We have a meeting the first weekend, the first Sunday in June already, which is the 4th.
What is there anything particularly pressing left on the agenda? Without looking, I'm not sure.
I don't really feel like it's appropriate for me to say yes or no because a lot of people agendize things, including myself, and we just didn't get to it.
Yeah, that's not. I didn't mean it like that. I meant like, is there anything that we like have to take care of that's like crucial for party operations? I'm looking through. I don't know. I guess that's up to everybody to decide.
If you want my opinion, Mr. Nana, I don't think so because I'm willing to wait on the membership goals. The one thing that is pressing, I am planning on starting an email motion for that I'll give notice of here is I am planning after discussions with the chair on moving to appoint Kathy Yanuskavich to fill the vacancy on the executive committee. And I intend upon doing an email motion to do that. The chair, she can contradict me if she has since changed her mind, has told me that is who she wants. I always believe in putting who the chair wants on the executive committee.
One thing I will mention, we did not get to my ballot access report we will be most likely asking you for money sometime soon, probably before, I would say almost certainly before June 4th. We have a ballot access committee meeting coming up next Monday. Arkansas is pretty much ready to go. And so we're going to need to come to the executive committee to ask for funds to be allocated to start that. So,
Well, that'd be a different body anyway. That's the executive committee and we can meet on a
sure.
dime.
I just wanted to make everybody aware since I didn't get to that report.
Okay. Do we have a motion then? I'm going to withdraw my motion and ask someone else to make one.
Madam Chair, I have my hand raised.
Yep. Go right ahead, Mr. Bowen.
Two things. I don't see anything on the list on the agenda or items remaining that can't be done either by email ballot or email reporting or discussion. Therefore, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
All right. It's been moved to adjourn
Seconded.
and seconded. Do we have any objections to adjournment? Okay, going once, going twice. All right. Hearing none, we are adjourned at 10:51 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everyone, for sticking it out for the long haul. I'll see you at the next meeting.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Good to see everyone.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night, everybody.